The scattering of the 10 northern tribes of Israel is extremely important. Understanding its significance can shed light on the broader context of God's plan of redemption, as well as his call to all nations, including the Gentiles. I will explain the scattering of the 10 tribes, how intermarriage with Gentiles occurred, and tie it into the identity of Yeshua, as well as the implications of this for the salvation of all people. The scattering of the 10 northern tribes of Israel. Israel was divided into 2 kingdoms after the reign of King Solomon. The northern kingdom, often called the Kingdom of Israel or House of Israel, consisted of 10 tribes, while the southern kingdom, called the Kingdom of Judah or House of Judah, consisted of the tribes of Judah and Benjamin, along with some of the Levites. In 722 BCE, the Assyrian Empire conquered the northern kingdom of Israel, leading to the scattering of the 10 tribes. The Assyrians followed a policy of mass deportations, removing conquered peoples from their land and resettling them in foreign territories. The intent was to break the national and cultural identity of these peoples, thus reducing the chances of rebellion. 2 Kings 17 describes the fall of Israel. In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria captured Samaria and carried Israel away to Assyria. He settled them in Halah, in Gozan on the Habor River, and in the towns of the Medes. After the 10 tribes were scattered into all the nations, they were lost, in a way that made it difficult to distinguish them as a distinct group. Over time, the Israelites who had been displaced began to intermarry with the Gentiles in the nations where they were resettled. This was a significant departure from God's original command to the Israelites to remain separate from the surrounding nations in Leviticus 20:26 and Deuteronomy 7:3. The intermarriage with Gentiles resulted in the mixing of Israelite bloodlines with those of foreign nations, which further diluted the cultural, religious, and national identity of the 10 tribes. This is reflected in the Samaritans, who, as described in the New Testament, were considered a mixed group of Israelites and Gentiles. Also, in 2 Kings 17, the Assyrians resettled foreign peoples in the land of Israel after the exile. These foreign settlers were taught to worship the God of Israel, but they mixed worship of the true God with idolatry from their pagan and cultural practices. This led to a syncretistic faith, and the people became known as the Samaritans, a group that was despised by the Jews in later years because of their mixed heritage and practices. But every nation continued to make its own gods in the several towns where they lived. They worshipped the Lord, but they also served their own gods. 2 Kings 17:29-34. The practice of intermarriage and syncretism with Gentiles had a profound impact on the identity of the Israelites who were scattered as they became indistinguishable from the surrounding nations. The role of Yeshua in regathering the scattered tribes. The scattering of the 10 tribes of Israel has theological significance, especially in light of Yeshua's mission. The Bible speaks of how Yeshua came to regather the scattered children of Israel, as well as bring salvation to both Jews first and Gentiles. While Yeshua's mission was primarily to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, Matthew 15:24, it also included a broader mission to reach the nations and bring salvation to all people. He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." Matthew 15:24. This statement is part of a larger plan, where Yeshua's coming was not only to fulfill the promises made to Israel, but also to extend salvation to the Gentiles. He came to restore Israel to their God, and to make a way for the Gentiles to be brought near to God through him, refreshing the covenant, magnifying, and making it honorable, like Moses prophesied he would. Yeshua is the fulfillment of prophecy. Isaiah 49:6 says that the servant of the Lord, a prophetic title for the Messiah, would be a light to the nations to bring salvation to the ends of the earth. Jeremiah 31:10 speaks of the regathering of Israel from the nations. Hear the word of the Lord, you nations, proclaim it in distant coastlands. He who scattered Israel will gather them and will watch over his flock like a shepherd. The scattering of the 10 tribes was a judgment. Yeshua's ministry started among the Jews, but it was always intended to bring salvation to the Gentiles as well. See John 10. "And other sheep I have, which are not of this fold. Them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and they shall become one flock, one shepherd." John 10, verse 16. In this way, the intermarriage of the 10 tribes with the Gentiles is not a complete loss in Yah's redemptive plan. Instead, through Yeshua, both Jew and Gentile are united as one people, brought together by his sacrifice, paving the way back to covenant. Yeshua's mission to the Gentiles and the lost tribes. The intermingling of the 10 tribes with the Gentiles may have caused some of them to lose their identity as distinct Israelites. But in Yeshua, Yah's covenant promises are available for both Jews and Gentiles. Yeshua's atoning sacrifice opens the way for both the scattered tribes and Gentiles to be united in him, meaning in his same character. This is part of the mystery of Yah's plan, the unification of Jew and Gentile in the Messiah, a grafting in or an adoption as sons of Yah. In Matthew 28:19, Yeshua commands his disciples to go and make disciples of all nations, which includes the lost tribes of Israel scattered among the Gentiles. The regathering of the lost tribes is not merely a physical return to the land of Israel, but a spiritual regathering in Yeshua's character and likeness. See 1 John 2:6. And in Romans 11, verse 25-26, "For I would not, brethren, have you ignorant of this mystery, lest ye be wise in your own conceits, that a hardening in part hath befallen Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And so all Israel shall be saved, even as it is written, There shall come out of Zion the deliverer. He shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob." Intermarriage and the mission of Yeshua. The 10 northern tribes, scattered into all nations and intermingling with Gentiles, still have a place in Yah's redemptive plan. Yeshua came to regather the lost sheep of Israel, including those who had intermarried with Gentiles, and bring salvation to all peoples, Jew and Gentile alike. Through his character, both Jews and Gentiles are brought together into a refreshed covenant, forming one body of believers in Yeshua. As an obedient son, his work in the crucifixion and his resurrection from the dead glorify Yah and make it possible for both Jews and Gentiles to be united in Yah's family, fulfilling the promises made to Israel and extending salvation to all nations. As the Messiah, Yeshua came to gather his people back to himself, all those who have been dispersed among all the nations. And through his character, his covenant-keeping example, all nations can now be brought into the fold as one man and the temple of Yah.